these bite-sized episodes, for regular episodes, we like to break stuff down. We like to be pretty bad at brevity, but hopefully I can have some bit of brevity. I think that's enough alliteration for one episode. Bite-sized episode today, I'm going to talk some Pokemon ZA, Pokemon Legends ZA, specifically for Nintendo Switch 2. So I live in a town whose library stocks video games. In fact, I found out recently they stock some Switch 2 games. So I'm eyeing Donkey Kong Bonanza because I did not know that they had that until recently. Anyways, I've been playing some Pokemon Legends ZA for the past almost 3 weeks now. Now, don't get excited because 3 weeks of me playing does not grant very long. I'm sure most people could finish the game in what it takes. I'm not sure how long this one is in particular, but I have put in a chunk of time into the game. I don't know. I have no idea how far into it I am, but for anyone who has played the game, you go from the rank. The reason it's called Pokemon Legends Z to A, in addition to being a sequel, a canonical sequel to X and Y, is that you start at rank Z and you go all the way up to rank A. And I have gotten to rank F so far. If you know, then you know. So I've put in a chunk of time into the game over the past few weeks, and I wanted to give some impressions of the game. See if anyone would be interested from hearing from little old Josh over here about what he thinks about Pokemon Legends ZA. So I played Pokemon Legends Arceus earlier this year. We'll have an episode on that game coming up soon. We've got a patron who wanted to talk about it with us. And so we'll be tackling that. And it's hard to talk about this game without talking about the first Legends, although I will try my hardest not to do so. Because one thing I think this game does well is that it differentiates itself from the first entry in this Legends side series here. Now, that being said, okay, Josh, what is a Pokemon Legend? Well, like I said, it is a side game. It's not a mainline Pokemon game. In fact, the turn-based battles in Pokemon Legends Z to A, it actually uses more of a real-time combat system than your standard turn-based battles. You still have turns, but each of your attacks are on cooldown timers, so something more akin to like a Xenoblade Chronicles or something along those lines. But in a simplified form, Xenoblade Chronicles has lots of systems going all over the place. But anyways, in addition to the battling differences for this game, it's also an open world game, like some of the recent Pokemon games have been, although the world itself takes place in a single city for this entry, which is a bit controversial, I have learned. And certainly in comparison to the first game, that is one place where you'll see a major difference. But this game just recently came out, so I wanted to give you a little bit of my impressions on the game itself. So if you haven't played a Pokemon game before, which of course you have. Why am I even saying that? It's a monster battling game. You catch little monsters and you have them fight other little monsters and people who train up these little monsters. And you see who wins, and particularly with Pokemon, they are not difficult games. They are generally pretty easy. Generally, you can go more hardcore with them. Most mainline Pokemon games have additional content after you get a credit roll. They have post-game content where you can really dig into the systems more so. And then, of course, there's the battling aspect. So you have tournaments. Everyone, you guys know this. This is Pokemon. Who doesn't know what a Pokemon is? If you know what a Mario is, you probably know what a Pokemon is. Come on. But this is a side game in that series, and so it does differentiate itself a little bit. It's the second game in the Legends side series here, both of which games are available on Switch, and now Pokemon Legends Z to A is on both Switch and Switch 2. Now, I've heard that the original Switch has a lot of technical issues. I've heard that online from different places. However, I have a friend of mine who has played it on original Switch, and he said he didn't notice any big problems, no stuttering or any issues that he saw while he played the game. So I tend to want to, with the people that I actually know, IRL, I tend to take their opinions and what they see uh, worth more. It's worth more to me than just a simple grain of salt from someone that I see on a Reddit post or something along those lines, or a gaming journalist will say. So it seems to be running fairly well. Just since I've brought it up, I'll go ahead and jump into that. The technical aspect of this game is that I, frankly, am very impressed with the way that this game runs on Switch 2. From all things that I have read, Pokemon Legends Z to A on Switch 2 runs at 60 frames per second. I would have thought that it ran at a higher frame rate because it is so smooth. When I first started playing it, I booted up and I had it in docked mode. So I had it on my TV and I'm like, whoa, this looks nice in terms of just how fluid the game runs. I've played most of my time with it on handheld, and I get the same feeling whenever I pull it up, is that it just looks and runs really well. Any loading screens are done within 5 seconds. I mean, they're so quick. This is just a very snappy game, and I'll get to it in a second when we get to kind of the gameplay of the game. But I do think my whole impression of this game is that it is a very snappy game in lots of different ways, but it is absolutely smooth, and the performance of this game is great. Now, in terms of graphical fidelity, I've seen a lot of people complain about the textures and things in the way, the polygons really of this game, and how there's lots of sharp edges and things like that. Not anti-aliasing or anything there, but there has not been as much detail put into objects and things like that. For me, for this art style, for how it works, I it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't feel bad at all to me. Sure, it could have, if they put more detail into it, I could have been wowed by that. But it does not. It, to me, the graphics of this game do not take anything away from it. And because the whole flavor of Pokemon in general is kind of cutesy, overall, I think it works. I think it fits. Um, I'm not dying for, like, oh, it needs to be super detailed, and wouldn't it be, sure, it might be an amazing Pokemon game if you actually did that, but I don't feel cheated in any way. So I am perfectly fine with graphical fidelity, but combined with the performance of this game, it feels great, frankly. These are my impressions of the game itself, and the way that it runs. Now, in terms of gameplay, I talked about how the core gameplay has changed a bit. You have these real time battles, and so battles go by a lot faster. Again, what I mentioned earlier, Pokemon to me is kind of a cozy game. It's pretty easy. You pick out the Pokemon that you like and you want on your team. And compared to other games that I like to play more brutal RPGs. So for Pokemon, it's more about that creating a bond with your team and picking the Pokemon that you like. Whereas other series like Shin Megami Tensei, it does not matter who you have in your team. As soon as you can use them to get someone better, you do that, because the game continually increases the challenge. And that's not the case with Pokemon. So the battles in this game are a lot faster. And so you're battling more. Even when you go to catch Pokemon, they've streamlined that process quite a bit. So you can catch Pokemon in the wild, you can battle Pokemon and try to catch them at any time. When you knock out a Pokemon, you have a chance to catch it, which is a huge difference than other, I don't know about you guys, but I know Gen 1 Pokemon, for me, you're kind of skating on thin ice as the Pokemon's life gets to the bottom of the bar. Can I do another attack to lower its HP anymore, or is it going to knock it out and then I won't be able to catch this Pokemon anymore? No, in this game, when you knock out a Pokemon, you get a chance to catch it. So it makes the core gameplay even easier. I would say that the way the mechanics of this game work are very streamlined. Now, together with how well this game runs and how quickly it kind of puts you into the action and how quickly the battles go, everything feels very snappy, very quick. And to me, that made a very good first impression. It throws you right in. You're in the middle of the action. It always feels like there's something to do. You can go to a new place. You can do some of these side missions and things like that. You can unlock some new TMs and new moves for your Pokemon, things like that. There's a lot to do in this game, even though it's a bit more limited in scope. And I'll get to that in just a second. But I'd say my overall impression of this game is that it's very fast paced, and so it was pretty fun. And it's like I said, it's pretty easy. But I've had a really good time with this game so far. I did not get far enough into the game to really kind of evaluate the story that's going on. Apparently, it does get pretty good at the end. I don't know. I'm not going to speak to that. What I had gotten up to where I've played is that it's pretty boilerplate Pokemon. It feels like a Pokemon game. The story feels like a Pokemon game. You meet someone who shows you around the city, and then you're roped into antics along with them, and you're using your Pokemon. And wow, aren't you just such a great battler? You should join our faction, and that we're trying to do good in the world. So it's pretty standard Pokemon fare. In terms of the music, I would say, although I have not played Scarlet and Violet, I did play Pokemon Shield, I believe. I think it was Shield. It might have been Sword, but I think it was Shield. Regardless, I thought the music in that game was fantastic. I think this game has really good music as well. It has that French flair because Lumio City, where you are where this game takes place, it is very French inspired. Same with Pokemon X and Y, and they have some really good renditions of the music in this game that feels kind of like lounge jazzy, but it's all done with real instruments and sounds really good. So lots of that, lots of the slapping of the bass as well. So hey, I like the music. I like the overall aesthetic of the game and how that fits into it. So overall, my impressions of this game is that it's pretty darn good. And actually, the time that I've spent with it so far makes me want to pick it up at some time. Does it have to be, before the year's out? I don't know. If my kids really kind of push me to it, maybe it'll come at Christmas time. Or I might wait a little bit longer. I might just get it from the library again. Who knows? But I've enjoyed my time with the game quite a bit. In fact, more so than I expected. My final thoughts are just in comparison to Pokemon Legends Arceus. And again, I don't want to dig too much into that, but I want to address some of the complaints that I've heard about this game because it seems to be getting faint praise, not necessarily middling reviews, but not exactly glowing reviews either. And it has to do with the ways in which it is limited in its scope. So Arceus had a much more open world. It had much more varied environments, and this game takes place within a single city. And I can see how, as you get towards the end of the game, that this could be a real issue. I didn't experience it in my time playing the game because it always felt like there was a lot to do within the city. However, I hadn't spent 30 hours in the game the way that I did with something like Arceus. I can't remember if it was 30, 40 hours, something like that. And I personally like the aesthetic of Arceus more because I like that old school Japanese feel to that game. However, I really appreciated the fact that they wanted to do something unique with this entry. It does not just feel like Arceus again. It feels different than that, and I applaud the game for doing that. I also I'm totally fine with this game being more limited in scope, not feeling like it's absolutely packed to the gills with 1,500 Pokemon. I think it's fine with the amount of I don't know how many Pokemon are in the game, but it doesn't feel like it's over an overwhelming amount. There is some criticism in terms of the way that you catch Pokemon. And that does seem like as you progress in the game, I can see that as a valid criticism. There are areas throughout the city where Pokemon can be caught, and they're frankly like parks within the city, so they feel small. And if those are the only place throughout the course of the game that you can catch Pokemon, I understand why you would feel a bit cheated for a full game. It does not feel very Pokemon esque if you don't have different environments and different kind of bigger environments in which you can go and catch Pokemon. I understand that. For my time with this game, like I said, I don't know how far, maybe a third of the way into the game, I was fine with it and I enjoyed my time. I can see some criticisms if I could see the possibility of criticism as you get further into the game, but I've actually really enjoyed it. So, those are my thoughts on Pokemon Legends Z to A. I really like it on Nintendo Switch 2, and it's given me some thoughts about some other games that I'm going to want to be playing on Switch 2, because as I play more with this newer hardware and see the benefits that it has to offer, I'm thinking I like it. I like it quite a bit. I like my retro games. Don't get me wrong, but having some buttery smooth content on Switch 2 is nice as well. Anyways, guys, I'd love to hear what you have to say because, hey, I'm a dad. I've got 3 kids. I didn't have that much time to play this game. So there's much more to it. I'm sure a lot of you out there have played more than I have. So if you have a different perspective, I'd love to hear it. Check us out at thelinktree.com/the backlog breakdown. Get a hold of me and let me know what you think about Legends Z to A. We can talk about it a little bit more. Till next time, guys, keep beating down your backlog, and we'll keep breaking down the benefits.